Good evening. My name is Jordan. He is Sam. Why is it so dark? Hold on. Let me get a little light. Sam, talk to the people.
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? I guess we'll wait to see when we have more people. Doesn't seem like we have any. Well, now
No.
one.
It's growing. Here we go.
There we go.
I'm going to put some light here. We do this gangster style, everybody. So, hold on. Boom. It looks like a Halloween episode. Nah, that's no good. It's awful. All right, hold it up like that. That's better. Well, so basically, there is all this talk about the democracy that is being under attack with Russia. Trump, Russia, there is Pokemon Go, apparently. Did you see this story that Russia has infiltrated? Russian hackers have infiltrated using Pokemon Go to influence the election and all that goodness. Hold on, this is bothering me. I'm going to do this right. So, basically, So, basically, as I reported last year, you have the New York primary between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders lost by a lot. I'm not going to pretend. He lost by 16 points. But I was the only person reporting at the time that, that 126,000 people were purged off the voting rolls. 126,000 people. Media barely covered it. Bernie, unfortunately, didn't really run with it. Didn't say anything. Most of those people were purged in Brooklyn, one of the most progressive areas in the country. I put Brooklyn, Portland, Seattle as some of the most liberal, progressive cities in America, with a lot of voters that would likely vote for one Bernard Sanders. Give me my computer here. So, it comes out, there's been lawsuits and all this stuff. Oh, it's because the light is out. No shit. Hey, hold that up. So, it comes out that not 126,000 people were purged, 200,000 people were purged. 200,000 people. From the New York Daily News, New York City's Board of Elections will admit it purged more than 200,000 voters from city rolls. New York City's Board of Elections will acknowledge it broke the law and be making serious changes in its practices, according to the proposed settlement of a legal fight over the purge of more than 200,000 from the city's voter rolls. After many Brooklyn residents arrived at the polls during last year's presidential primary to learn they were deemed ineligible to vote, the good government group Common Cause New York filed suit. State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman and the Brooklyn U.S. Attorney's Office joined the litigation. But rather than slug it out in Brooklyn, federal court, the sides have been working on settlements for months. Now a proposed pact slated for filing Wednesday would mandate reforms in the city election agency. According to WNYC, which first reported the proposed deal, the terms include the Board of Elections acknowledging it broke state and federal law with the purge and scrutinizing every voter registration move since July 2013. Another term is the board devising a plan in 90 days for the maintenance of voter rolls. In a statement, Schneiderman said the city's Board of Elections illegally purged over 200,000 New Yorkers from the rolls, violating the law and New Yorkers' trust in the institutions meant to protect their rights. So, of course, sorry, I'm working on the light here. It's not getting any better, so I'm just going to give up. Of course, this is all over the media, right? You got CNN all over it. The New York Times must be all over it. All of them must be over it. This is democracy under attack. It's not 2 people. It's not 20 people. It's not 200 people. 200,000 people in New York. And by the way, I'm not saying Bernie would have won New York, but what I am saying, there's nobody who could say if those voters were not purged, it would have been a lot closer in New York, which might have had ramifications for the rest of the primary. Sam, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, a lot of people were purged during the primary. I actually know probably about 10 of them, including my own mother. My mother has been voting Democrat for all of her life. And for some reason, when she went to go vote in the Bronx, actually, her name was not registered. It was said that she was not registered as a Democrat, as an independent, so she wouldn't be able to vote. My mom has been an active member in elections for a very long time, and for some reason her name was not on there either. So it's an anecdotal story, but there are a lot of people that I know that did get purged.
Do you see my amazing skills with lighting that I just did? Thank you, everybody. Who needs Ty? Who, by the way, Ty will be joining the Young Turks full-time and moving to New York. That is the breaking news. So congratulations to my brother from another mother. So let's get this straight. Again, for the Hillbots, not claiming Bernie would have won New York because he lost by 16 points. But this is about democracy, right? CNN, so worried about our democracy. The New York Times, worried about our democracy. The Washington Post, who wrote 16 negative stories about Bernie Sanders, very worried about our democracy. Yet, I saw this in the New York Daily News. I saw it in WNYC. Saw it in the New York Post. I don't see it anywhere else. We are reporting on the fact that somebody from Trump's campaign reached out to WikiLeaks to see if they could collaborate, and WikiLeaks would try to find Hillary Clinton's missing 33 emails. They're all over that, even though there's no proof that WikiLeaks, Assange said, we did not agree to that. And that was it. So the mere act of Trump's campaign reaching out to WikiLeaks, banner news 24/7. The mere fact that Bob Corker or Jeff Flake are not running for office has been on my TV for 2 fucking days. Oh, I just got demonetized because I said the F word. But 200,000 people being purged. And by the way, not all of those people would have necessarily voted for Bernie Sanders. But it's not about who would have won. This is about ensuring that it's we have a democracy. To me, one of the cornerstones of a democracy is a free, fair, and accurate, not skewed, not rigged, not fraudulent election. Because you can't topple dictators violently. You have to take them out at the election booth. You can't topple corrupt mofos violently. You have to take them out at the election booth. But give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the New York City Board of Elections did this by accident, which I don't believe, by the way. I don't believe that. Why is this coming out a year later that the 200,000 people were purged? Why weren't the purged voters automatically reinstated? I mean, I was at the courthouse the day of the New York primary when no other media was. I talked to the lawyers and I talked to residents who were purged. This was known right away that there was a problem. It was known right away, but these people weren't allowed to vote. Maybe it would have shrunk Hillary Clinton's lead down to 8 points, 7 points, 6 points. That has ramifications not only for pledged delegates, but the narrative in an election. Because the narrative in an election is important for the media to take Bernie or anybody else, any other challengers' chances seriously for the next contest. If Bernie would have lost New York by 6 or 7, he would have outperformed every poll. And that would have been a lot closer. A reminder, Hillary Clinton was a senator from New York, and her and Bill Clinton live in New York. Your thoughts on what it did?
Yeah, well, I think the narrative part is really important because we have to keep in mind that, number one, Bernie was building a crazy movement in New York within a short amount of time. Let's remember he had 40,000 people that came out to Washington Square Park. I was there. I think you were there too. So,
well, you might have not seen it because CNN was showing Trump's empty podium.
Yeah, it was phenomenal how many people were there. Literally, they had to set up speakers 2 blocks down so people could hear a couple blocks away. It was unlike, and I just went to the Bronx one. It was way bigger. It was unlike anything I've ever seen. The second...
Somebody said, could somebody give the lady next to Jordan a Hamlet? I don't know what that means, but I'm just happy they called you a lady. Go ahead.
Hello. But the second thing also that I should point out also is during the primary, when emails came out that Harvey Weinstein actually sent to Robbie Mook saying he said he pointed to a Sanders ad featuring Erica Garner. This is from The Intercept, the daughter of Erica Garner, daughter of Eric Garner, who was killed by New York City police officers, as well as growing support for Sanders among Latino activist leaders. Quote, "I'm probably telling you what you already know, but she needs to be silenced, probably with the Sandy Hook issue," he wrote. So they were already getting very, very scared about Bernie's endorsements, Bernie's movement in New York. They didn't think that it could carry over to the city that her and Bill Clinton live in, and it did.
You know what I find really troubling about all this? Again, I was very open during the campaign. I personally was for Bernie Sanders. Didn't affect my facts. I always reported what I knew to be the facts. If I get something wrong, I correct it. If I found out tomorrow Bernie Sanders is a tax fraud or an assaulter or something nefarious, once I verify it, I would report it. But at the end of the day, what is the point of even voting in this country anymore? I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but when you have, in this country, 9-hour lines in Arizona, when you have in this country, the Iowa caucus is literally, less than a point Bernie Sanders is down, and they call the race. 0.2% or 0.3 of a point, they call the race. You got New York, they purged 200,000 voters. A year later, oh, we're going to do something about it. And a slap on the wrist. When you have, in the year 2000, way before TYT even was born, you had nearly 100,000 African Americans purged off the rolls, which helped George W. Bush. Besides the Supreme Court, may I remind you, the Supreme Court deciding the election for George W. Bush. No fan of Al Gore, but he won that election. And how different might the country have been? You could say a lot about Al Gore. I don't think he would have been stupid enough to send us to Iraq. I also don't know if the financial crash would have happened. So, you have all this. You got issues in California. TYT did an amazing, TYT Politics did an awesome mini-doc on the California voter suppression and election fraud. Taylor Gill, who does a lot of our technical stuff and live streaming, handles a lot of the crews behind the scenes. He produced that. I mean, name your city. I know there was issues in Pennsylvania. I know there was issues in Rhode Island. Arizona and Rhode Island and other places literally closed down half of the polling locations so poor minorities couldn't vote. And you got CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times all ranting about our democracy is under attack. How about in South Dakota? If you're a hardcore TYT politics person, I went to South Dakota. I took a little detour from Standing Rock. They literally had a ballot measure in November for anti-lobbying, an anti-corruption ballot measure. And basically what it said is it put a cap on the amount of money the lawmakers in South Dakota could accept from lobbyists. It passed 52 to 48%. Well, Sam, what happens when a ballot measure passes in a state? What usually happens?
Well, sometimes it goes through, but other times the upper government blocks it.
That's not what's supposed to happen, Samuel.
Exactly, but that's what generally
So, literally, they passed this ballot measure, and then South Dakota legislature rejects it, repeals it. What democracy? Rick Snyder, the emergency manager law was overturned in Michigan and in Flint, and guess what he did? Just appointed a receivership transition advisory board, which isn't really an emergency manager, it's just a group of 4 unelected businessmen, essentially with the power of 1 emergency manager. Oh, but our democracy on attack. Let me tell you, folks, for the 15th time, do I think Donald Trump is corrupt? You bet your ass I do. Do I think Donald Trump has shady financial deals with Russia or the Kremlin? And that's why he won't say a nasty word about Russia? That's why he will attack war heroes, he will attack anybody under the sun. Gold Star widows, but he won't attack Putin? I do. I do think he has shady financial dealings. I've said that all along. But there's a difference between shady financial dealings and treason and, you know, collusion between the Trump campaign and like a body like WikiLeaks. Which, by the way, Rachel Maddow did a 10-minute segment last night just stating as fact that the Russian government was WikiLeaks' source, even though there is 0 evidence proven for that. And if that was the case, okay. It's not good, but it also was evidence of fact. Do I think Trump and his campaign should have problems if they colluded with a foreign government? Yes, it's against the law. But there's no evidence of that. Meanwhile, you have ridiculous stories. Oh, Russian trolls posed as Standing Rock activists or Black Lives Matter activists or Pokemon Go. Yet 200,000 people purged in New York, crickets. Crickets. I mean, what do we have to do? Do we have to chain ourselves to the voting booth so our vote counts?
Yeah, I mean, also, let's keep in mind also...
Oh, by the way, they said they want you to get a hairnet. Not a
hairnet,
not a hat. This is short for him, by the way.
It's not happening. Yeah, I used to have it way longer. I cut it. I'm making progress.
Yeah.
But yeah, another thing to add also is the Board of Ed was kind of their arms were twisted to finally admit that they did wrongdoing. Let's keep in mind that de Blasio right away said that, things were going on that shouldn't have been going on. And I don't know what de Blasio's whole role in the primary election was, but he did call right after for $20 million invested. Also, Common Cause New York and the Justice Department, both under Obama, both filed lawsuits against the Board of Ed. So, I mean, these guys, for them to admit it after all this time also, and their arm was kind of twisted to begin with. It's not like they came out of the kindness of their heart and said, oh, we made a mistake, let's improve on the situation. Everybody was pretty much pointing the finger at the Board of Ed.
And by the way, right now, the most sinister thing is, I'm talking like Bernie, that 200,000 people were purged. But let's not forget, New York State has the most suppressive rules for registration than any state in the country. You had to register. If you wanted to register as a Democrat or switch from an independent to a Democrat or register for the first time, you literally had to do it 6 months before the primary. Who the hell, if you're a millennial or you're a working person, are you paying attention 6 months before a primary? 6 months before the primary, you probably don't even know when the primary is, much less there is a primary.
The deadline just passed here.
Yeah, so the deadline just passed again here for a primary in April of next year. So if you live in New York and you didn't know that, if you wanted to vote in midterm primaries next year, local elections, it's unreal. It's unreal. But I will always cover it. Sam is editor for us, but he does on-air stuff too. And also, we had an amputation earlier. Tell them what happened.
Jordan had the tiniest, when I say the tiniest, I'm talking about half of the white on your fingernail in his foot.
Excuse me, it was a piece of glass.
Yeah, but I'm saying it was such a small piece of glass.
It was not a small piece, and it could have been infected.
It was the tiniest piece. You could hardly, I had to put a light to it to even see it.
Yeah, so he helped me get that out. Scalpel, rubbing alcohol. I got to stay healthy. There's a lot. She's hot. It's a he. But
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
Oh, so they called us gay for that. That is very offensive, first of all. First of all, there would be nothing wrong if we were gay, but why do you got to go to that? Huh?
We got jokes.
Jordan, you're my best friend. Let's hang soon. I'm here. I'm in New York. Oh, my other phone's ringing. Hold on. So, I will close with this. We got a lot of things in this country to protest. Water contamination, immigration, banning Muslims. Name your pick. Frankly, if I was an activist, I'd be outside protesting CNN every day and the New York Times. What? Jordan got 2 phones? Yeah. I'm selling dope. Yeah, the opioid crisis, it's on me.
Jesus
but
Christ.
Let me tell you something. If you feel confident going to the polls in 2018 and 2020, I got a bridge to sell you. You better make sure you know your registration deadlines. You better make sure you register early, and you better make sure and you have a written response and screenshots of your name as whatever it has to be, whether it has to be a Democrat or a Republican or whatever, to participate in your primaries, whether it's for federal or state. You better make sure you have a read receipt that you are registered as a Democrat or a Republican or whatever that you need to be. And save that. So if they pull this funny business, you have it there and you can act accordingly. Any other thoughts?
What is this? This guy keeps talking about what is our agenda. Our agenda is the American people's agenda. That is the agenda.
Well, he sounds like a scummy politician. Let me tell you, my agenda. My agenda is to deliver justice to the downtrodden. My agenda is to expose the corrupt and the social Darwinists in this country masquerading as public servants. And if you don't like it, I got a bridge to sell you. Goodbye.